Good
Well,
morning.
good
Good morning.
morning. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday for us. I'm not sure what day it is to be happy for whenever people are listening to this or watching it. But welcome back to Getting to Unstuck. It is Thriving Thursday, which is something that we like to do every so often on a Thursday, where we take what we've been talking about and we put it down. We almost bring it down, distill it down into what it means for us in our individual lives. So today we're going to be talking about the wheel of life and how the wheel of life can change your life. Whether you feel wobbly, I have had many a wobbly wheel of life assessments, or you're simply curious to take an inventory of what you can focus on right now. And that's the key word, right now. The wheel of life is a simple yet powerful tool to create clarity and insight. It's not about being right or wrong. It's about understanding how to balance the elements that make you who you are. We have a wheel of life that we like to call our whole human wheel of life. That's a free assessment that we have on our site. It takes a couple minutes. We're going to be talking a little bit later about that. But today, first of all, we would like to help people understand what exactly a wheel of life is, where it came from, why it matters. So let's start with Carol. Why don't you take us there?
Sure.
Give us some background.
Well, if you Googled Wheel of Life, you would probably see it is a tool for many, many coaches and consultants to offer an opportunity for people to be able to take a look at where they are in their life at right now, as Crystal, as you just said. The reality of it is it actually is very, very old learning. It comes from the Tibetan Buddhist principles of an eightfold path, where in that wheel they were looking at all the different realms and how people are it's cyclical and how people change. And if you look at your karmic path, you may be reincarnated to go to a different piece of your path. So the principle of looking at it in the current time is that we are going to look in that same generous way. What are we working on now in this life, in this moment? And the interesting aspect of it is when you start to pull it apart into the various sections, we are often very strong in a number of them. But the actual wheel that is created when you do an assessment like the whole human wheel of life is you get to see the whole physical description of it. And it looks a little bit, to be honest, like a little bit like a spider's web.
Yeah.
When it's all stretched out in certain areas, but it's also brought in other areas. So the wisdom of it is not new. The wisdom of it is ancient, and it comes from really deep spiritual beliefs. We're not going to be pushing that at all, but we do recognize that this learning comes from the past, comes from our ancestors.
Yeah.
Well, aren't we? I mean, at least I am harking back to a simpler time for sure. And so I love the fact that it's seated in ancient wisdom, and that it takes a bit of the pressure off. I think we end the year under a lot of pressure for a plethora of reasons, which we can discuss later on or throughout the year. And then we also start the year off with a lot of pressure with all of the resolutions that we're supposed to be. And of course, anybody on social media or checking, their feeds, there's sort of 3-step, 5-step, 7-step solutions to everything.
So true.
I think what we're doing with the Wheel of Fortune is kind of taking a snapshot of here and now, and no pressure. It's just a snapshot of possibilities, right?
Yeah.
So I love it.
And it is a snapshot. So there is a kind of an foundational principle as coaches that we approach conversations with our clients. And it doesn't matter if it's in a professional setting, if it's a life coaching scenario, if it's executive coaching. Even though we may not state it with our clients, there is an implied understanding that we have. And that is basically that wherever you are is where we begin. We're not trying to clean up things in the past that, we're not looking over our shoulder, except if it's maybe giving us some insight into why certain things are happening right now in terms of your reactions, things or anything like that. But it's not about that. Coaching is about where you are is where we begin, because we're looking forward. We're pointing in one particular direction.
Mhm.
Life, for me, every time I take a Wheel of Life assessment, that is kind of the gift that I give myself. And it's just like,
Mm.
this is not a judgment call. This is an assessment. And it's really important to remember. So there are 8 elements of a Wheel of Life that
Mhm.
that are important. And Carol, do you want to talk us through them?
Sure. There are actually 8 aspects of it that are mapped out all over in every wheel of life. So you're looking at your life and answering questions based on these particular categories: money and finance, career and work, health and well-being, fun and joy, friendship, personal growth, relationship, home environment.
Mhm.
So, as you can see, it's a truly all encompassing examination of our life, because all of those aspects impact who we are. And the reality of this is a very internal conversation. The invitation when you take an assessment like our Wheel of Life is that you are really, really honest with yourself. Because at the end of the day, it is who you are being internally that is going to be reflected externally. And as you were saying, Colin, a lot of what we do at the beginning of the year is external. We want to get
Mm,
somewhere. We want to get something done. We want to get to the gym, but it's
yeah,
all out there.
Mhm.
exactly. Exactly. All of these externalities, like I need to look better, I need to lose weight, I need to do this, I need to perform better socially, all this stuff is out there. And
Mhm.
the wheel really brings it all in and brings it home to where, um, if you see the spider web skewed in any way, right, you can then go in and look at the stories that you are playing right on repeat
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
stay in that zone.
Yeah.
So
And I think
it's a
that this
great
is
way to
really,
break that down.
sorry, Colin, my
No, go
apologies.
ahead. No, not at
I
all.
got really excited when you were talking about something
Go,
right
go,
there.
go.
I did a very uncoachy bad
Do it.
slap
Do it.
in there.
Do it.
I really
We
lost
break the rules, right, with our coaching. So
Absolutely.
so
it.
a full
um,
human.
I think what is interesting about this conversation and about what you just were talking about, Colin, as well, is when we look back over the episodes that we have done in the short amount of time that we've been doing this particular setup since the beginning of November. We have 16 episodes now under our belt, which is kind of a lot, actually. It's really exciting to think about. There is one episode that stands out that people have been interested in. There's 2, but one in particular, and it's called Finding Your Center. So
Mm.
I find it so interesting that when I looked back yesterday, I was looking back after we already knew we were going to be talking about this today, that was one of the episodes that people are listening to the most. And so if you're listening and you haven't yet listened to that episode, we do recommend it. Because, Colin, it is about what you were talking about, finding your center. We have been
Mm,
so conditioned. I have been so conditioned. I've allowed myself to be so conditioned, continued on the education project that started from when I was little, that if
yep.
everything is on the outside is okay, I can continue to limp along internally, right? I continue
Yep.
Mhm.
to limp along on that wonky, wobbly wheel of life. And hopefully something will magically change in this to make everything better on the inside. And
Mhm.
that is counterproductive to actually becoming a whole human, right?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And
It
and
really
and as you say that, you remind me of a LinkedIn post I saw the other day of a gentleman. I forget, he might have been in Canada. He was won the top 30 under 30 award. And the photo on social media was all smiles and of
Mhm.
course, celebration. And then a week later, he had a nervous breakdown, right?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
so that's the tension I think that we're talking about, right?
Right.
This of
Mhm.
external validation forgets the human, right?
Yeah.
That is at
Mm.
the core of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, and I think what we're trying to say is take the mask off, right?
Mhm.
It's not helping you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And connect with you and yourself, and using tools like this wheel, and then don't go it alone.
Right.
Talk
Yes.
to somebody about the results, right?
Right.
Because
It's your point to such an important aspect, Colin, in that we have learned to be a certain way when we
yeah,
present ourselves. And we learn it at a very, very early age that we
yeah,
have to show up a certain way to be for our parents, for our teachers, for our peers. And that tender being that is us at an early age gets squashed further and further down.
Yeah.
right.
And that it's harder and harder to find, to be honest. When we get to a
Mhm.
certain age, we know ourselves a certain way, we are seen a certain way in our communities and in our organizations. And sometimes there's some part of it that is just yelling to be heard.
Yeah.
And that is one of the aspects of taking something like this, is you can take a look and go, "Wow, I haven't paid any attention to fun and joy in the last year."
I was just going to say the same thing. I think we're on the
My
same
Yeah.
track.
Yeah, my fun and joy,
Yeah.
meter is really, really low and lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's one of those expressions of that internal, lively, wonderful human being that we are, is that we
right.
can say our fun and joy is at a 10 out of 10. How
Yeah.
often does
It's
that
we're conditioned to forget, right? We're conditioned to forget all of those elements. And you mentioned fun and joy, and I saw on my results, I'm like, well, there's none, right, or limited. Some
Yeah.
of the humor that we have on here, but I'm and somebody recently said, oh, what do what's your hobby? What are you into? And I'm like, oh God, I forgot. I think it's workaholism,
Yeah.
So, what, by doing something like the wheel, sorry, I'm pointing to my screen because I have it up, but you can't see that. But doing something like the wheel, has allowed me to say, oh, where's the fun? Where's the joy? Where's the play? So I went out and bought a bunch of puzzles the other day from Value
Oh,
Village, right?
cool.
And I'm like, I forgot that I love doing that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's allowing me in the last few days just to kind of relax into it and ease into it, and
Mm.
allow some downtime to be, to then
Yeah.
be more creative. So this isn't just a scorecard that you look at and go, oh, okay, this is a tool, an organic, ongoing thing that you can really
Mhm.
play with all year long.
Yeah.
And we're
Mm.
going to, right? I think we're going to spend the year on at least the first 8 months
Yeah,
on
we
these
are the
8
first
segments,
8
right?
months.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we'll add some more, I'm sure, but
And we
that's
will, and I think that's a excellent way to just pull it apart and put some attention to it. So this month that what we're looking at is health and well-being,
Mhm.
and that doesn't mean we're going to advise you or counsel you or suggest that you hit the gym. Although if that's your thing, please
You do
do go
you.
ahead and do so, if that's where the fun and joy comes in. But the well-being aspect of it is the piece that really is juicy,
Mhm.
because your well-being, we begin to look at what does that mean.
Mhm.
So we get each of these aspects also can be examined in a much deeper way.
Yeah.
So what we will be doing in our conversations this month and then ongoingly is let's dig into that. What is
Yeah.
well-being? What does it look like for you? And how do we know that we are being well?
Mhm.
Just to look at the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well,
So there's oh, sorry, Carol.
well,
Go ahead.
please go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask both of you a couple a question in particular. The people that we work with and that may be listening to this are busy people by many definitions of the word, and maybe they are also people that hold a lot of responsibility on their plate. Perhaps they are responsible for a team or a family and a home, or all of the above, however that looks. So this and I think, because I will speak for myself, I was well, I'm technically still a single mom. Was raising my daughter as a single mom, and my life was very busy. I was traveling between 2 countries, and there was a season of my life where it did not seem prudent to take any time to actually think about this at all. That seemed like a
Mm.
luxury that was not mine to have. Do you know
Oh,
what I mean?
yeah, I do.
So I'm curious, um, if you have any examples of people that you have had this conversation with, where or things that you would that you've seen that you would like to share around how to integrate this, to even if someone is challenged with time or whatever, how to start integrating this for them in a personal way that's unique to them.
Mm.
I've got an example.
Mhm.
Actually, we posted it today on. It's kind of from the other direction, though. It's more from the
Mhm.
leadership direction.
Yeah,
But
sure.
this particular leader that we posted about on LinkedIn in an article actually gave the person on his team the not the right, but the made it feel okay for her that she was allowed to have downtime out of the office,
Mm.
which seems bonkers, right?
Mhm.
Like, you're like, "Well,
Yeah.
God, of course you should have, like, your own time and space and
Mhm.
recovery and things like that," but there's a lot of pressure out there, and,
Mhm.
so check out that article that we posted today
Mhm.
about how leaders are beginning to see that they've got to let their teams and their people put their
Mhm.
oxygen masks on first, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, everybody's gonna be working at a much lower percentage of
Yeah.
sort of productivity and happiness and bringing joy into the workplace or not. So,
You
right.
know,
So,
you remind me, Colin, years and years ago, one of my first real jobs, I was working at a bank. It was a small bank, and the manager was a young guy, which was unusual at the time. Most bank managers at that time looked like you would think a bank manager would look. And I remember him putting his jacket on and his briefcase out, and he was leaving early on a Friday afternoon, which we all like, "Okay, good, see you," you know,
Mhm.
and he said and he stopped and he looked at us, and we were like the tellers in the bank, and he said, "Don't you ever just wanna leave early?" And we looked at him like,
ah,
"Well, of course we do, but we don't have your job." And he
Mhm.
said, "Well, can we figure it out so each of us gets to leave
mm,
early on a Friday?" Now,
Oh.
this was so many years ago. He was so
right,
far advanced for his time,
right.
Yeah.
and he moved on to the bigger corporate world because little small branch in Victoria was not big enough for a man who
Mm,
had that capacity.
Mhm.
But he saw what many of us worry about is, like, they get to do it because they're the C-suite. They
Yeah.
get to do
mm,
it because they have the privilege. Well,
right.
what you're suggesting is how can we take small pieces? How do we collaborate perhaps with a
Mhm.
colleague to get a longer lunch hour? What do we do? What could we do in our neighborhoods to share childcare
Yeah.
so that all of us, every single one of us, gets a chance to take a little breathing room?
Mhm. Yeah.
I think
What?
awareness and community came out of what I was just hearing there, right, Carol? This idea of
Mm,
Yeah.
being
mhm,
aware. I think we tend to go into the office and put our heads down and nose to the grindstone and I've got to achieve XYZ, this
Mhm.
this month or this year, and
mhm.
we forget about the humanity sitting next to us or sitting in the other office or in the
Yeah,
conference room.
we
So
do.
awareness of the humanity of people and their needs and what they might be bringing to the office space, and
Yeah.
also community, like the idea of community and building, I think is so important in here. um,
Mhm.
and maybe that's something we talk about in month 9, about all of those things and how do they fit into
Put it all
your whole
together.
human community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
of the word well-being, like, just if you break that down in English, well-being, like to be well. And
Mm.
when it's not very often that, we say it in emails all the time. I often say, like, I hope you're well. I hope all is well in your world. I hope things are going well. But I
Mm,
don't often stop and think about, am I experiencing well-being in myself? And am I bringing well-being to where I'm showing up for work and
Yes.
like,
And how much is well?
yeah, yeah,
And it's
what's the
great that
measurement
well,
of
how
that?
do we measure it? That's the thing, and that's sounds a little pedantic, but we're going back to that wheel of life
Yeah.
opportunity because we get a chance to quantify it.
Right.
What is well for me? And taking a look at how is it balanced? So I think a lot of us probably are going to lean heavily onto that work side
Yeah.
because it's the nature of where we are. So it is a matter of, again, looking at the center because the center is the core and the core is you. So how are you supporting you in that core?
Right.
Mm, great work.
well, I think certainly the wheel of fortune, the wheel of life is pardon the pun or the any Freudian slip, but it's also going to show you, like, you can't fake it with this one, right? Like, it's going
Right.
to show you where you're perhaps telling yourself some stories around well-being.
Hmm.
So, and because a lot of the time, we all see it, that there may be a layer of sort of well-being and positivity and telling yourself certain positive affirmations. But
Yeah.
if it's sitting on top of a vat of, using the gas tank thing, if it's sitting on top of a whole bunch of negativity, that
Mhm.
little thin layer of positive storytelling is getting fed by a lot of negativity. So,
Yes.
um, yeah, bring it on, bring it out. And I'm curious to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
some results.
Yeah, and I think that's also really important for people to know. And in case you're wondering, we definitely want you to go over and take that wheel of life for yourself. Take the assessment. It will take just a few minutes. The questions are very pointed, and so don't overthink it. Just
Yeah.
answer top of mind. This isn't. There's no final exam at the end. There is no judgment. This is between you and your internal conversations. And so, just let yourself answer honestly. And where you are is where you begin.
Mm. So you go to our website, you go
Mhm.
to wholehumancoaching.com, and
Right.
it'll pop right up so that you have an opportunity to do it. There's no obligation. You don't have to we're not going to try and market ourselves all the way to you. We would love to engage in a conversation though. Love to
Yeah.
hear what you found. Give us some comments. Send
Mhm.
us a note. Want to
Yeah.
hear from you.
Yeah. Thank you.
And once you've left the website, go and follow us on LinkedIn and on TikTok. Obviously, too many coffees this morning. TikTok and Instagram. So subscribe on YouTube and stay connected.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. And until we see you again, may you be well. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.